Hello everybody, welcome back. I thought we'd go a little farther on our shield build. Today what we're going to talk about is actually how we do the planking on them. A lot of people, when they first see our shields, they ask if they're made out of plywood. And no, they're not. They are actually planks, and I am all but positive you can barely see it on the video, but there are 6 planks on most of our shields. You can see some of the lines running. One runs right up that center. Right there are our seams or our joints, and that's what I want to talk about today, is how we're actually jointing multiple boards together in more of a old-fashioned style, trying to be a little bit accurate as far as history goes. So a lot of people will either use plywood, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's fun to build a shield. So if you're going to start with a piece of plywood, cut a circle with that, that's awesome. That's not what we're doing. Another option is, and a lot of people, I know people do this, where they'll go to a big box store and they'll buy tongue and groove pine. And again, nothing wrong with that. It's typically not the quality of wood that I would need to carve. Again, I'm carving my shields, and so I need absolutely perfect wood, and it's expensive. But I think that it's really worth it. So for us, we're doing planking, and what we're doing is we're cutting a half notch in each of our boards, and then they fit over each other. And the way that we do that is with what's called a shoulder plane, and that's what this is right here. There's a little blade in it, and I'll show you how this works, but then you run that plane across the board and it starts to cut a notch in that. There's a couple tricks that we use to have really good consistent notches, so our joint area is really good. So I'll run you through that. First, I use a guide board for my depth. To find out how deep I actually want this to go in the wood, it takes a little trial and error on a few scrap pieces. But once I find that, what I do is I set a guide board to the depth so that it will only allow me to cut as deep as this guide board will slide on the table. And I just use a couple modern C-clamps to clamp that shoulder plane to the guide board. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to set that up for you right now so you can see actually how this works.
Good.
So what I've done is I've taken my shoulder shave and attached it to a guide board. I've set the depth of cut that I want. Once this board hits my tabletop, or my Roman workbench in this case, it will not allow this to go any deeper, and that will make the right groove. You can already see what it looks like making that groove. I'll show you a little bit more. You can already see how good, I mean, that does a beautiful line. It's really, really precise when you use the guide. So now what I've done is I have taken the blade out, pulled it back so it's just a finished blade. And you can see how beautiful, soft little curls it takes off of that, but it is really smooth. Now, I'm sorry, I got to keep doing this. This is really rewarding. I love playing with this stuff. Now, I don't always do my shields using a hand shoulder plane, obviously. Just like those of you who have watched me build shields before and hand carve them, I don't always just use knives. We actually set up in our shop a jig for a router to make this exact same cut. But as you can see, I'll show you up close here, this shoulder plane just makes a beautiful cut when you finally get in there. And again, you've got to back that blade off by the end. It's really choppy when you start, but when you've backed that blade off, it just barely shaves some off, and it makes it really nice. I'm going to show you now how it looks after you've done all of the boards. I just so happen to have them all finished behind me. But this way you can see now how they overlap and butt up against each other. You can also see the quality of wood that we choose for our shields. This is very expensive pine. Now, traditionally the shields would be poplar or pine planks like this. Probably not as clean as this is, though. But you can see now, that's how we set up our shield blanks. You can see how those joints would be really good. We use Titebond, the good Titebond glue, and we're very generous with our glue. But then you can see, as we lay it out, this is how those planks run. So where there's a joint in all of these square boards, there would be a joint in the shield, and we'll just cut out a circle. Now the shield, if the joints are running this way, we're going to be running the staves and the handle opposite those joints to give it rigidity. And we'll show you how to do that in the next video, but that will determine then how we trace our art then onto the shield. Whether we're carving it or whether it's just a painted shield, you want to make sure that really the top and the bottom is here and here on those shields. So I hope that's interesting for you. The next one, we are actually going to be tracing the circle, the handle, and then taking that art that we did in the last video and transposing it to the face so that we're ready to start carving it. Look forward to seeing you in the next video, everybody.